Welcome to this tutorial, and in this video where we are looking at introduction to HTML and CSS, we are going to discuss about HTML and CSS. So the first thing you need to know when you hear the word HTML is that this is a language that is used to design web pages, and HTML started way a long time ago, and it's been there for a while. So we have a small HTML code that I wrote here, and for your information, HTML I think would be one of the easiest languages. So when you combine it with CSS, it's going to be very valuable in your journey to design web pages and do other things. So before wasting any time, let's look at this HTML page. First, the very first thing that you need to know is that you need to start by the HTML tag itself. You can see at the top you got HTML and HTML at the bottom, and you will notice that the most basic understanding or format of writing HTML is this. Let me just show you a little bit of what you need to do with this. So first of all, you want to write this sign, which is a less than sign, and then you put your element in it. So let's say HTML, and then you close it, and then you write your content in here, and then when you close the entire thing, now you're going to put that and put a slash, and then write again HTML, and then you close it. So one thing you will notice with HTML is that whether you write these letters in capital letters or in mixed letters, the browser knows that it will regard it as HTML. So whether you write capital letters or you write capitals and small letters, it will still be the same. So this format of writing this sign and your element and this sign, there are other elements in HTML that do not take that format, and the example is input. We'll simply take this method. So this other part remains redundant. You don't need that part. So inputs are like password fields, username fields, where you need the user to key in some text. So another thing that will not take this format is the image. IMG. So in any case you want to embed an image into a site in your web page, this is the format you're going to use. And there are others like break, BR, should be BR, and there is another one called HR, I think. So this one is to break whatever you were doing. You could break a line, you could break to the next paragraph, you could break to, you simply break something. And then this one will put a line where you put it. Whenever you put this one, there's going to be an horizontal line that is placed. We're going to look at some of these things in practical, how we use them. So moving forward, we have known the format for writing HTML that you need to start with this side, write the name, and then close, and then you do the same thing after putting your content in the middle. So you can realize that we wrote it, and then we put the content in the middle of the tags. That is our content, and this is HTML, this is HTML. So a simple HTML structure will contain the head and the body. So in the head, there are specific things that need to be placed at the head. For example, the title, the style. So style is what is used to add CSS styles into your document. There is another thing that should fall under this place, which is called the link. The link also doesn't take this part. The link doesn't take this part. The link also uses this format that we've seen these other things using. So what does the link do? The link links your external style sheets or external scripts to your HTML. So if, for example, you've written a CSS file in an external file, for example, in my case, I have this document here called introduction.css, and I wanted it to be linked to this introduction.html, I would put the link here under the link tag. So first of all, after looking at the head, what the head should contain, which is the title, the style, and the links, there is other elements like the script that could be placed under the head. But actually, this element, script, could be anywhere in your head and anywhere in the body. You could put it anywhere inside your body or anywhere on your head. So this one is where we're going to put your scripts. Scripts are things that give your HTML file a little bit of more functionality, like buttons and things like that. So this could be a JavaScript, a Python script, any other type of script that you would like to play a part in your HTML. So for this video, do not worry about scripts very much. We're only going to deal with the styles and the HTML itself. So HTML, the structure, is popularly known as the markup, where you provide structure to your HTML document. Like in this case, we have the head and we have the body. Coming on to the body, we have the element that we've named aside. As you can see, this one, we've named it aside, and we have another element that we have named main, which also has some content in it. So in the aside, we have an element called h1, and we put content in the middle of it as introduction. So h1 is simply the heading. h1 is simply the heading of your document. So h1 is the heading. The heading of your document. This is the heading, just like it sounds. So you could have a h1, h2, h3, h4, h5. So what distinguishes the h1 from h2 is simply the font size. You will find that the h1 has the biggest font size, followed by a h2, followed by a h3, H4, H5, like that until you reach whatever number you can reach. And then we have this one, which is it's called an anchor tag with A. So basically its format is supposed to be like this. This is an anchor tag is supposed to be. So this is it. This and this are the same. It's only that this one we've added another thing called attribute. We've given it a characteristic of the called href. So href is simply referring to what this link is supposed to do, or where the anchor tag is supposed to take us. So this is also a link of sort, but it's a tag, it's an element of HTML. So this one is used in scenarios where you want that when a user clicks this link, it leads it to another thing. It's more different from this type of link that we have here. This is linking your document to an external file, but this is linking the user to, could be a file, a page, or whatever. So whenever they click this home, this name is home, then that takes them to home. So let's move forward. We have the main here. So in the main we add the h1, which says login. We have discussed about h1 to be the heading. We have an h2 here, which is the same as what we discussed, and I think we should we'll remove it for now. And then we have p tag. The p tag is the paragraph, short form for paragraph. Simply put a p. So paragraph is anything that could be written in a paragraph. Think of it as you want to write an article or something. So you will use the tag paragraph, and then you put your content in between the paragraph there. Alright, that's where your content goes. That's where you're going to put your content, in between the p tags, so that anything you write in the middle there is going to be the actual content that the user is going to see. And then we have another element here, the form. We have an element here called form. So forms are things that collect information from the user. Let's say you want to create a login page. You will have to use a form because the user should put their username there and their password, so that whenever they have written that and then they have clicked login, that information is going to be captured and taken to the database to check if that kind of user exists. So in such a scenario, you will have to use a form. So in the form, we had something called a span. A span. This also divides this thing, right? A span is used to divide things. Think of them as divisions. Let me show you real quick. Let's say we have this box here. Let's say we had this box, alright, and then in this box we wanted to divide it into two equal parts like this. So we will call this a span, and we also call this a span. So in our example here, what these two spans have done is to divide this form into two equal parts. Alright, so let's say this is the form, this is the form, the entire thing is the form. So span 1 and span 2 divides this form into 2 equal parts. So this other part, which is a span, contains a label, which is also a tag, a label called username, and an input field for keying in that username, right? So that is span 1 that we've seen here, span 1. And then span 2, on the other hand, carries a label for password and an input for password. Alright, so we're done with spans. So spans are just to divide something into 2 different parts, alright, or as many different parts. So we're done with forms here. So we've looked at main, we've looked at the body and the head. Let's now look at another last thing. Let's see, a last division element, an element that can divide the page into some sort of partition. It's called the div, which is generally used and popular in almost any coding environment, any coding organization. You probably have seen these things many times and wonder what they actually mean. So a div is simply a division, right? Just the same way we saw the spans divide the form into 2 different parts, divisions could be used to do the same thing. We could replace the spans with the divisions, alright? We could use the spans as divisions, but I most certainly like to use spans and divisions interchangeably. Let me say, divisions are the same as spans and will be used pretty the same. Let me give you another example here. Alright, another example of a division now. It's the same thing. So let's say this is a box and we want to divide this box this could be a division, this could be a division 1, this could be a division 2, division 2. We could have another division in here. Let me see something. This could be a div. Alright, this also could be a div. So think about making, let's say, a window. You wanted to make a window. Alright, you wanted to draw a window, for example, and you wanted your window to be like this. You wanted your window to look like this. You wanted your window to look like that. How many divisions would you need to make this window? Well, you will need this one, which is 1. You'll need this one, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 divisions so that you could draw a window that looked like this. And in our next videos, we are going to see how we can draw beautiful shapes, draw beautiful figures using HTML and CSS. So let's move forward. So we've introduced the division, all right? So it will reach a point where you need a lot of divisions, and since the tag name or their tag is just a div, you cannot refer to a specific one in your CSS unless you add something called a class. All right, something called a class. or an ID. Let's talk about a class or an ID. Alright, so when we'll be looking at CSS, we will find a way to locate a specific division, a specific form, a specific span using these two things here, other than using their tag names, which is called a span or a form or whatever. So this, we will use the class, we will use the ID. So where do we put them? This is where we put them, in the division, alright, or whatever tag or element you want to identify. You will come here and say class equals the name of your class. Let's call this bottom. You can choose any name, it doesn't matter about the name you want to choose for a specific division. So by including the class, alright, by including the class, you are making sure that you can always point to this specific division at any given point, at any given time. So let's say we had another division here, another division. We had another division there. So if we don't put the class or the ID, we will not be able to tell which division we want to style. That's why we add the classes. So let's say we add this, we give this a class of a class equal to, let's say blue. No, let's use something generic. Let me say something like right. Alright, class right, and then we close that. So we have a way to differentiate between the divisions we are pointing to. And remember, the class this is actually called attribute, which is a characteristic. Alright, so we could give any of these things, alright, any of these things, we could give them classes. Like aside, we could say this aside is called class something, class 1, or this main is called class this h1 is called class this. Alright, so when you want to give an element more than one class, you simply separate them with spaces, like this one. Let me say this is bottom and then left. That would mean it is a class bottom and also a class left. So giving an element multiple classes, you simply separate different classes with spaces. So if you wanted to give a class that is longer, alright, that would need you to put a space. Let's say you have a class called bottom left. So instead of leaving this space, you could find a way to remove the space. Let's say you put that, or you could put an underscore, or you could just put it like that. But if you want to give them multiple classes, you just put space. The same thing would happen with ID. You would say this is ID equals left. ID equals left. And different elements could belong to the same class. Let's say this ID equals left, alright? This ID equals left would also, let's say, would apply to this span here. So you simply come there and see the span also is ID left. Alright. So with that said, I think we need to move forward. by now getting to CSS. But before that, I want us to open this file and see how it's going to look on the browser. So for now, I'm going to save it, and I'm going to navigate to my files here and double click on this file to see how it looks. And this is how it looks. We have introduction, which was our H1. We have our link here which says home, and we have an H1 login, and then this part. So let's come to our styles. All right, so CSS is going to be using majorly this part, classes and IDs. That's how we are going to locate which element to target. CSS also uses their tag names. Like you could simply target an element called form or an element called H1. All right, you could simply say H1. You want to style H1, you want to style H2, you want to style a span, right? You want to style a main, things like that. So let me give you real quick how CSS works. So first of all, when you want to start writing CSS, it's to save your file or to have this part of style. You need to have this style, and you need to ensure that on your HTML file is at the head, right? It's within the head tag, like in our case here. And you need to know which element you want to pass the styles to. Which element do you want to style? And then you will have the name of the element, curly bracket, and then the style, colon, and then value, and then semicolon, and then you close that with a curly bracket again. So this is the basic structure of CSS. You have the element you want to style, a curly bracket, the style you want to apply, and the value of the style, and then you close first by the semicolon and then the curly bracket. Let me show you real quick. Let's say we wanted to style the body. We will come there and say body, and then curly brackets. Let's say we want to give the body a background. We say their background. All right, we put a colon and say blue. Give it a value of blue, and then semicolon, and then we close, and then we save. We come to our files here, and we open this and see. I made a mistake probably. Let me see. I don't know why the background blue. I don't know why it's not functioning, guys. Body, background, blue. It should be working. Should be working. Should be working. It should be working. I don't know why it's not working. Back. Alright, I've seen the problem. It's supposed to be background. Yeah, the spelling. Alright, let's run that again. Let's come here. And boom, you see our background has changed to blue. Okay, our background has changed to blue. Let me give it a rather nice background. Say hashtag DDD. This is a gray color, so you will teach yourself, or you will know how to put to name colors like this. Let's give it a gray color. So when we come here, see, we're giving it a background of gray. So let me come and style. Let's style another thing. Let's give the body. No, let me say that the body. No, actually, let's just use this. Let's say we want to give it display. We want to do something called grade. Display grade. Alright, and then we say grade template columns. Let's say free FR. Don't worry, guys. So the value we are telling the body to display grade. Grade is something like this. Let me show you real quick. A grade would be something like this. We are telling the body that it should display grade. So let's say this is the body, alright? So a grade will tell it we have columns. So this is basically what we are telling the body to do. Make the thing a grade, and then make the grades to be three. Alright, 3 columns. So column 1, this is column 1, column 2, column 3. Alright, so this is basically what we are telling the body to do. We are displaying grade, alright? On the display should be grade and 3 columns. So let me see if there is any changes that our thing has done. It hasn't done a thing really. It hasn't done a thing. So to correct that, we are going to come here at the body and introduce a division, right? A division here. Class, we are going to give it a class of container, okay, and we close that, and this container should cut across. It should also contain the main. So we're going to come down here. We are going to come down. We are going to come here and say we're closing the division. Yeah, there. we save. So this container is what we want to give this display property. So let's come here and say container and we want to cut this. We want to cut that and put it here. So I think you've noticed that while I was referring to this container, I put a dot and then the container class. So that's basically how CSS works when it comes to styling things that have been referred to under the class method, the class tag or class name. So whenever you're styling with CSS, a class, you will start with a dot and then the class name, class name. Alright, class name. When it's ID, you put a hash and then class name. So most of this video we are going to use the classes, so we are going to stick to the dot and then class name. This is a container, and let's give the container background too. Background of, let me say white. Alright, and then let's give it something called let's say justify content. Justify content. Justify content center. So what this does, justify content center, tells the HTML to ensure that on the horizontals, right, things should go to the center here on the horizontals. All right. So when you want things from the top to be going to the center too, you are going to add a style called align items. Align items. You say center, and then let's save and see what happens. Let's come to our file and reload this. So you can see the container has this. Alright, the container has this. So there are things that we have not really talked about. So let's figure out that. Let me come here and instead of saying 3FR, let's say 14, let's say 10 RAM auto, and 10 RAM. So what this does is to tell the HTML to make the left side, right, the left column to be 10 RAM, which is a unit that, you know, is used a lot in measuring the sizes of these things, and then the middle column to be auto, and then the left column to be also 10 RAM. So let's save that and see if there's some changes. And there we go. You can now notice that the introduction, which was under their side, is on the left, and then everything else is on the right. Okay? Let's style another thing. let's style another thing and say form spark. No, let me say form display block, and save that and see what happens. Display flex. Let me say display flex, and then say flex direction. Flex direction is column. Let me see if that does anything. Yes, that does something. So what I wanted to do there, initially you saw that the username and the password were aligned side by side. So what we just did, brought them down here so that the username at the top and then the password. But then we want to put up some space in between the password and the username. So we are going to come here at the form and see something like gap. We'll give it a gap, alright? A gap of like 1 ring, okay? So that there is a gap between those two. So we're going to come and see if that happened. And you can now see that there is some distance between them. So what if we wanted to increase the height of these input boxes, alright, so that they are a bit large? In that case, we will come here and say input, or we'll say form input, and then we do that, and then we give them a height. Let's say 2 rem. Alright, 2 rem like that, and then we save. After saving, if we reload, you can see that the height has increased. Alright, the height has increased. So what if we wanted to put some sort of border? Alright, we wanted to put border for around this place. We'll simply come to the form and say border. We'll give it a border of, let's say, 1 pixel. 1 pixel solid, okay, and then we state the color as blue in this case. We save, we come here, when we reload, you can see the border is there, okay. So we could put, we could squeeze this thing to a little so that this border doesn't touch on these sides. So in that case, we wanted to use something called padding, all right. We'll say padding. Let me say 2 pixels. So what the padding is going to do is to squeeze, leave a space of 2 pixels between the contents and the form. So you can see they have created that. So we could increase the padding, let's say 3, let's say 5 pixels. 5 pixels, all right. Let me show you what would that do. You can see there is now a little bit of room in there, okay. So we could also style this one, okay, the login. We could position them, we could do lots of things with them. So like the login was under the main. So what if we said main? We would position main as position relative. Position, let me say main has a position of relative. Position relative. So what position relative do is to tell the HTML whatever is that it should refer the position of main considering the positions of other elements in the parent where main lives. So I want to use a position absolute. I want to introduce the position absolute for h1 that is in main h1 main h1. Alright, the h1 that is in main, we want to give it a position. I want to give it a position of absolute. Right? So what position absolute does is to ensure that the element named there is actually at the very position that has been determined or that has been laid forward. So let's say the left equals, let me start with the top. The top should be 0.5 rem. The top. The left should be 0. Right? The right should be 0. So what this is going to do is to ensure that from the left and the right, it's in the very middle, right, between the left and the right. Let's check that out. And you can see that it's displaying over the others. Okay, so but we do not want that. Okay, we do not want that. So let's say top, let's give the top 0. Okay, let me say the top is 0, and then the left is 50%. 50%, and let's not declare the right. The top is 0, the left is 50%. And there we go. It doesn't solve our problem, does it now? It doesn't. What we intend to do, I think we should use a button, because we want it to come somewhere here. Alright, we want it somewhere there, but we still want to have some bottom. So let me say bottom. Let's talk about a bottom, not a top. Let me say bottom. Bottom is like 5 rem. Now let me say 10. Let's give a bottom 10 rem around there. And then let me save that, and let's see. It disappears. I don't know where it goes. Probably very much up. I don't know where it went, but let's see. Let me see. Let's say 5. I don't know where it went. It came back. I think it went very much up. So let's style the main also to have a margin top, right? So in the position relative, when you want to specify the amount of space that should be at the top, you come there and say something like margin top. Alright, you start with the margin and then top. So let's give it a margin top of like 5 rem. Okay, 5 rem. and then you can see the main has moved a little bit down. So let me remove some of the percentage and say something, I don't know. I want it to be at the center. So in that case, let me say it's 48%. 48%, let me see that. It's not at the center yet, so we're still going to reduce it. Still going to reduce it to like 45. See that? 45%. Yeah, it's coming. You can see it's coming. You see 42%. You see that and see. Still. Let me say 40. Let me say 40%, and you can see. That's probably the center. So let's put it up a little bit, and let's put it up a little bit. Bottom. Let's say a trim there. And you can see. But I have a feeling that it still should go to the left. Should still go to the left. 38%. I don't know, guys. Yeah, so you can play around with these things to ensure that you achieve what you want. So I think what happened here is we positioned this absolute because we want it to be exactly where we want it to be, and then this was positioned relative, right? And then the introduction, this was the heading, there was a link home, and the link should actually be at the top here somewhere. So in that case, we are going to, if we want the link to be at the top, you simply remove this cut, and then we paste it at the top. Control V. What's going on? Okay, we didn't cut it. We don't want to cut that. Yeah, there. Put it at the top. And then when you do that, you can see it's at the top. Oh. Really happened. So I think up to that point is enough for an introduction to CSS, to HTML. But in coming videos, we are going to discuss further the things we can achieve using this, these two languages. Like, for example, I think we are going to focus majorly how to design web pages, like for example this one here, this web page. Like you can see here, we designed the dashboard where we have a lot of things. You can see that we designed this section, we designed these boxes and these links, like the settings and the whatever. So we'll be inserting videos into our not videos really, but images and icons like this, and adding this functionality where you can see the hoovering, it changes colors. And then these ones, you can check how that works. This one and everything, right? And this, well, we have a calendar and that and that and that. So we'll talk more about this thing. This is just an introduction, and in our next video we are going to cover how to make this dashboard. So guys, you continue to watch my videos, and if you're really passionate about making these things happen, you can subscribe so that anytime I post this video, you are the first to know. Also supporting me to encourage me making this content, right? So that I also get motivated. Yeah. So see you guys in our next video, and thank you for watching.